What's going on, everybody? FYB presents Wise Word Wednesdays, a quick YouTube stream to help you get closer to accomplishing your dreams. I'm your host, Joe Spider, and I do represent the fresh. Listen, I will say this right now. I'm going live. Not only am I going live on YouTube, only am I going live on Facebook, not only am I going live on Instagram, but I'm also looking up right there going live on Instagram and Twitter as well, too. So we got a lot of different stream sites going on. So if I'm looking down, I apologize. If I'm looking up, I apologize, but just know that I'm trying to connect with the people where the people are at, right? Because we got to meet people where they are as opposed to telling them just to come to where I'm at. We got to meet people where they are. So I might look up or down because I'm interacting with different sites here, but just know that we are here and I appreciate you being here. If you haven't already done so, I'm asking that you please hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button. And the reason I'm asking is because this helps with our algorithms when we're talking to different people. What it does is it shows on social media on these various different platforms that we're giving out some good content that is interesting, and other people can also get access to that information based on your like. So whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or anything like that, I'm asking that you hit that like button, drop a comment. What's going on, Mob? I see you, Jason, in there. Drop a comment as well too if you can, because again that helps with the algorithm. And listen, there may be times where you might be you might see this particular show, or you might see this video or something like that, and nothing applies to you, and that's okay. But you hitting that like button allows somebody else to see what we're doing, and that might be applicable to them as well too. So don't just think about it like, hey, this information wasn't meant for me. That's okay. It might be meant for somebody else. No matter where you're listening, whether you're on a various live stream platforms, or if you're listening on Spotify, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I appreciate you being here. I'm just asking that you hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the Wise Word Wednesday YouTube channel. You know that we are providing you with content each and every week. Subscribe to the Wise Word Wednesday YouTube channel. I would love to see you there. Now, today, we have a really, really dope conversation that I'm going to have with you all. Some good information that I'm going to provide to you. I have a homie of mine that was already on the show already. I mean, this brother is phenomenal. This man gave the keynote at the Pan-African graduation celebration at Sac State this past summer. This man is an amazing father. He is a dope individual. He's one of those people where, like, they're sincere just in the way that they speak, the way that they look, the way that they carry themselves. But just when you look into their eyes, you can see, this person genuinely cares about me. And I don't know if you ever had that kind of experience of what it's like to know that another Black man genuinely cares about you, genuinely wants the best for you, genuinely is saying, when they say, how are you? They genuinely mean like, how are you doing? Not just like, hey, how you doing? So they could talk about themselves. No, they genuinely are interested in seeing, how are you doing, Black man? And so I'm super excited to be able to bring this brother up. He was on the episode already before, but I had to bring him back up so we could talk about some of this real stuff. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Wise Word Wednesday show again, King Kroom. Hakeem, what's going on, bro?
What's good, King? My brother, man. Thank you for having me back, bro. Good to be here, man.
Of course, man. I had to have you back. And again, there are people that's watching on Instagram Live, but I'm just happy to have you. And again, for those that are watching on IG Live, if you want to check out the full video on with Brother Hakeem, you can check it out at the Wise Word Wednesday YouTube channel. You will see we are streaming live right now, so you can see Brother Hakeem.
Tap in.
So listen, man, we got a juicy one today, bro. We got a juicy one, and you and I have had a lot of conversation in general in regards to politics, right? And it's crazy how every 4 years everybody becomes a political expert. Everybody has been like, they know exactly who to vote for and why you should vote for them, and all these different policies you're supposed to be bringing up. But a lot of people kind of have been disappointing in a variety of ways, right? A lot of political parties haven't necessarily had our best interest. In regards to Black people. And so you and I have had a lot of different conversations, but so this is just an opportunity for us to publicize the conversations that we've had, the many conversations we've had over the years, and just in regards to politics, in regards to voting. Because I know every 4 years I typically get into it with somebody on social media because they're telling me you need to vote this way. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's crazy. And we can get into that a little bit later.
Bro. There's so much nuance, bro. I can't wait. Let's talk about it.
So first off, let's just talk. why is voting important to you? Like what made voting like one of those things that you've said I need to figure out, I need to participate in?
Well, I think initially, as far as my introduction into like voting and learning about it initially was more so like the values in my household. You know what I'm saying? Mom and pop, dad was a my pops was a staunch, Democrat. Like, we vote Democrat, we black, it's what we do. And so at an early age is learning about voting and like, not really with my dad, we didn't really talk about the nuances of voting in great detail. It was like more so
Mhm.
just vote Democrat, just vote is what we do. But I think as I got older and kind of starting to learn more just about our history, our triumphs, our tragedy as Black people, as people of African descent who were kidnapped and brought to these shores, man, and with the Ma'afa and coming here and just our overall story, right, and our storyline as far as fighting, for everything that we've been able to get. We're a resilient people, and a part of that resiliency is us, fighting to vote, fighting for particular rights, right? In a country that deemed us and put us in a subhuman category, right?
Mm,
Equivalent to 3/5 of a human being, right? And not, so being able to fight for everything we've been able to have and get in this country, still fighting to this day. So when I think about the voting piece and the importance of it, I kind of lean on to like the ancestral piece of like the collective fight that our ancestors had. And I'm sure even back then, some of our ancestors had different points of view, right? So, but I think that overall, like when I think about it, that's what comes to the forefront of my mind is that I want to honor, the fight and the triumphs of our ancestors, right? To be able to participate as an active participant in this experiment called democracy here in America. And some will even argue that's not really a democracy anymore, right? And so we could talk about that. But I think that really to leverage, my citizenry as a Black person and participate, right? And so, and figuring out from there, figuring out how do I want to leverage this vote, right? I think we'll get into what that looks like as far as the conversation that we'll get into. But what I think about mostly is the ancestral fight for us to even have the ability, to vote, right? So that's what I lean
no
on,
doubt.
yes, sir.
No doubt, no doubt. I do want to acknowledge Honorable gave 3 fire emojis. We
Good,
appreciate
honorable.
you for
Appreciate you,
joining, Honorable. I appreciate you for leaving a comment. And also, Dream, Dr. Moore said, "Hey, brothers." She sent some
Dr.
love right
Moore.
there. So
My
definitely
sister.
appreciate you for joining. Again, if you want to leave a live comment to be seen on the actual show, you can go on to the Wise Word Wednesday YouTube channel, or you can check us out on Facebook or on Twitter Live. You can leave a comment as well too. But I'm definitely going to try to see if I can acknowledge your comments on Instagram Live as well while we're recording. But yeah, honestly, like, looks like there's another comment from my man Jason. He said national elections are important to politically participate in, but what is the most important to participate in are local elections. Voting within your district affects voters the most personally. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I agree wholeheartedly. And that's one of the things that, my concern has been, right, is because a lot of these like super woke, you need to get out there and vote right now. This is your life depends on it. Like everything is going to be determined by this election.
Vote or
Those
die.
people are typically exactly like those people to me are typically silent
Yes.
every 2 years during those elections. You
Yep,
know what
yep.
I'm saying? Like during
The
those
local-
local elections, the midterms. It's like for me, I just get frustrated because anytime that you challenge what the national narrative is, like
Yeah.
all of a sudden you become public enemy. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And that's been my frustration with the
Sure.
whole internet voter, the internet intellect, right? It's like don't necessarily like they're silent in times when it's not like a national cry.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
If everybody's not saying it, they're not really saying
Not
anything,
saying
and
it.
that to me is cat.
Yeah, they riding the wave, and I think part of it, right? I think, and it's even more profound. What you said as far as you being kind of outcasted for not going along with groupthink, right? Is even more profound as a Black person, right? Because
Right.
there's a particular way in which Black people are expected to behave and think, right? In regards to our history and our experience here in America, especially when it comes to our voting patterns, right? Even we could go back from the early 20th century, how we voting Republican at first. And I think a lot of times we don't really know our own history and understanding just like from a political standpoint, understanding that the two-party system is flawed for many reasons. Understanding the histories
Right.
of both parties and thinking about what are they doing to serve Black people and to do things and enact policies that are in the best interest of Black people. Right, we have to start asking questions and using history, and just using our, learning about what the outcomes have been when it comes to the racial wealth gap, or if it comes to different policies and different things that in our communities, right, in our urban communities, in the hood, right, and all these different things that we see, and so being able to understand the nuances of that to come to a conclusion that's like, yo, I know we voted like this for 50 years, but this isn't serving us anymore, and that's okay. And I
Right.
think what's happening is that we've been used in a lot of different ways, especially because as Black folks, we face such a traumatic experience here, and they prey on our emotions. And so when it comes to a lot of the voting that's going on is based on like emotionalism and a lot of vote shaming and guilt, and like trying to like weaponize our ancestors, like saying, hey, you need to vote for your ancestors, or you need to vote because of this or that. And it's like, well, okay, I'll vote, but I got to make sure I do it in a way that's best serving our community. And if it's not the way of groupthink, then you get ostracized for it. And I think right now we're in a space where we're starting to have more dialogue around what the possibilities can be if we really leveraged our vote another way. Because it's been 60 years we've been voting, primarily for Democrats, the vast majority of us, and nothing's changed. It's gotten worse as far as our conditions, our material conditions, what we see around us. So there's a lot there, man. And I think like when it comes to the local politics, like you said, that's where you can really make the most impact in your day-to-day life. You know what I mean? When it comes to, your city council, your school board, all these different things that you are engaging with on a daily basis that's really around you in your neighborhood, from the policing and all these different things, right? The national things, the political, the presidential election, of course, it has some impact, but not as much as local. But the presidential one is super important too, because when it comes to how electoral votes work and the popular vote, you see even with that, there's some contention around who gets the popular vote, and then with the how much weight the electoral vote holds, right? So there's a lot there. So I think at the end of the day, I think for us, we need to better understand the centering of the Black experience and Black thriving and what it really means to like change the material conditions, right, of our people collectively, right? And
Right.
so
Right.
what does that look like, and how do we exercise that in our voting, right?
Yeah, I think I'm going to acknowledge another comment that Jason said. He said the problem with woke people are that they don't study history properly and do not pay attention to what is
Yeah,
going on in the news on a daily basis. And he said also they don't read any pertinent information from valid sources. I'm talking about valid news sources, books, and newspapers, and I agree with that for sure.
yeah,
Kind of like you said earlier, they're riding the wave. One of my frustrations have, and again, like I said, you and I have had many conversations about this. One of my frustrations when it comes to the way that I'm going to just address for Black people, my frustration in the way that Black people have kind of handled the voting situation, right? The presidential situation over the past couple years. I let me say this: I started off as Democrat.
of
The
course,
first time I ever got the chance to vote, I voted for Barack Obama. Right. The
yeah.
second time that ever got a chance to vote, I voted for Barack Obama again. Um,
95% of us
heavy
voted for
Democrat, you know what I'm saying? Heavy Democrat.
Biden.
But something that I did notice that I started to kind of take as I got older and started to question things a little bit more. I started to take a look. Let's take a step back a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And I started to ask myself, kind of what am I getting for my vote? I remember reading or listening to Dr. Eddie Glaude, I think he's from Princeton, and he was
Mhm.
talking about that, we should, earn something for our vote. Like you don't just get it because you're better than the worst person. You're supposed to give me something for the vote. And he had talked about during the Trump era, during the Trump when he was going for president, the Trump candidacy. There we go.
Mhm.
He was talking about how a lot of times people look at a successful Black person and say, hey, they're proof that you can be successful. But it's like you don't go to the casino and say because one person won, everybody has a chance to win. But realistically, you don't look at that person and say he won $1 million, so I'm going to do the same exact thing that he did and going to
Mhm.
win. No, you just say that person got lucky. So we have to understand that the political system that we've had so far hasn't necessarily been working in our favor. Even though there are people that have benefited from it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is meant for all of us. And so my frustration as a whole is that when I started to take a step back and take my emotions out of it and take the fact that I'm just super Democrat out of it, and I started to ask, okay, well, what am I getting for my vote? I immediately was like casted aside, or I was immediately turned into like, you're a Trump supporter, you're a racist, right?
Yeah.
And I was shocked because these were people who I grew up
Mhm.
learning from and understanding. And then these are the Democrats. It wasn't like these were, you know what I mean? Like these were Republicans saying like I'm anti something. Like it was like, yo, these were Democrats, people who were civilized, people who were
Yeah.
educated, people who've done a lot. All of a sudden now I was a Trump supporter and a racist because I just disagreed with
Question.
who the Democratic Party had elected. I watched all the debates. I was looking at policies, I was looking at history, I was looking at all these different things, and I was like, this candidate doesn't seem like the best person. Just my opinion.
Right.
And whenever I said that, it was like, well, you need to shut up, because if you saying that is going to cause this other person to get elected. The other
Nah.
thing that frustrated me was I saw Democrats behave the way that I historically thought that Republicans behaved.
Right.
And I say
Exactly.
this because um, when Obama got elected, there were people saying, not my president. And we were like, yo, that's out of pocket. That's your president of the United States. You treat him with respect. You don't say, not my president. That's not okay. Like, he has the position. You respect the position, regardless of what you think about the individual. And I agreed with that.
Mhm.
But then when Trump got elected, I saw a bunch of not my presidents. And I saw he don't speak for me. He don't speak. And I was just like, dang, that's crazy. Like, I remember us saying that the people who said that were racist, right?
Yep.
And so I thought that was interesting. And then I was like, listening to people talk about the elections being rigged when Trump got in, and it was fake, and nah, he doesn't deserve it. He stole the election. He did this and that, which, again, I was like, yeah, he probably did. Yeah, he
Right.
probably did, right? And then when Biden got elected,
Whole different.
the
I mean,
Republicans were saying
yeah.
it was rigged, and then all the Democrats were like, "You're racist for saying that, and how could you even believe that the presidential election could be rigged?" And so I'm just kind of taking a step back, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, it's looking like y'all are kind of one and the same by the way that you're behaving, and I already know policy wise, you're pretty much one and the same, because we still, when I'm talking about in regards to how you support Black people on a
Sure.
macro perspective, not a rising tide lift all boats kind of thing. I'm talking about an actual policy specifically that is
Before.
meant solely for Black people,
Yeah.
right? When we talk about a policy that's
Yep.
meant just to help Black
Yep.
people only, right? Just like
Yep.
there's policies for the Asian communities, there's policies for the Latinx community, there's policy for the LGBTQ community. I'm saying, where's your policy for, regardless of the party, where's your policy solely for Black people? When I've looked at it from that perspective, they've kind of been pretty similar in regards to what they've given to help uplift
Absolutely.
Black people. And so I just noticed, like, yo, the behavior that I'm seeing from these people are pretty much identical, and the policies are identical. Then what am I getting if I vote for this particular candidate?
The uniparty, man. That's what they, like I said at Sac State, man. I said is, two birds on the bird on the left wing and the right wing, two birds, two wings on the same bird defecating on the heads of Black people, bro.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah, you know what I mean. And so, but I do think that, I think that when it comes to just like where we at now and kind of the things we've been seeing, it's like this polarization that's been happening. I read this great book called The Coddling of the American Mind recently, and it was talking
Mm.
about just like polarization, where like, and what you just explained and what you just talked about, it characterizes that as like, if you have any type of different frame of thought or just questions or anything like that, you might not agree with something, then you automatically label anti something, anti this,
Right.
like that. And it's like, no,
Right.
I'm not anti this. I have questions. I don't agree with some of these policies. I don't agree with this person here, and that's okay. And I think what was going on because of this our country is really the propaganda around being the polarity piece is that, like, it doesn't give us a chance to think about the nuance and the gray. Everything is black and white. There's a lot of gray in regards to how we engage in our politics and all these different things, right? So, particularly with Black people, again, because we have been conditioned and socialized to vote a particular way, and because of us coming out of enslavement and just all the things that happened to us, especially in the 60s when we had the Civil Rights Act in 64 and the Voting Rights Act in 65, and then what the subsequent decades after that, look at our condition and things like that, right? And so for me, that's why history is always the best teacher, and it gives us a framework and kind of a roadmap to continue to think about, okay, this will happen historically. How do we evolve, right? And all of our our idols and folks that we looked up to, our heroes, right, from Malcolm X to Fannie Lou Hamer to all of these folks, MLK, right, before he passed, he was like, I feel like I'm integrating my people into a burning house,
burning
right?
House, man.
That doesn't get spoken about as much because it was the Radical King, right? I read this book, Cornell West, for this book called The Radical King some time ago, right? It's like there's a part of King that we don't like to talk about because it's not the we just singing Negro spirituals and like doing marches and stuff like nah, we coming for this check. We coming for this from an economic standpoint. There's a debt that needs to be paid, and we're coming for our check. But of course, once he started getting on that type of time and uniting white and black poor folks and poor folks from across different races, that's when shit got real. That's when he became a real threat, right?
That's what they did with Fred. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's what they did with Fred Hampton. You know what I'm saying? When he was doing.
Yeah, with the Rainbow Coalition. He's only like 23 years old, 22. He's a baby, bro. Like, you know what I mean? But having that much, being able to unite the people together in that type of way. And what the parties have been able to do is that, especially when it comes to classism and racism, is really put people in buckets to where we are distracted from like the real issue and the real problems, right? Of like poverty, right? Classism, even across race, but particularly with black people, we have a unique experience that we need to make sure, politically speaking, that we are getting policies specifically passed for us. And I think when it came to the last couple of elections, bro, and just seeing all the things from the TV, from reading books, articles, especially with our own personal experience. Well, remember, I'm from New York City. I'm from Harlem, New York, and I lived in Boston. I lived in Virginia. Then I moved to California. So I'm going from, and when I was in Virginia, I was in Farmville, Virginia, walking by Confederate flags every day, bro. Right? I'm talking to people at my institution, at my school, about how slavery was a states' rights issue, and had to debate these folks on, and they was heavily conservative, heavily Republican, right? Then I go to California, right? I was always taught as an East Coaster, California was the most progressive. It's liberal. You know what I mean? Like it's it's a great place to be. Then I get to California in 2016, 2017. And I'm like, yo, I feel it. Like it's here. It's here, right? In California, as a black person, you're the sixth minority group numerically, right? So your interests, things that are in the best interest of black people, aren't as prioritized as other groups of people, right? In Virginia and New York, like white and black and Hispanic, right? And Latino, like you're the second, third, like demographic. And so there's more of a push to like even try to get things in motion for black folks in California because it's so diverse, which it has its benefits, but also for black folks it's not as beneficial. We've been duped to believe it has been because it's being able to be integrated with other groups of people. But our history, our all the things that, as far as who we aren't honored, right? And those things aren't really brought into the mainstream frame out here in California. When I was out here, when I first got here, I was like, yo, I feel it. It's a lot of anti-blackness in California. It's real. Folks out here, they smile in your face out here, right? It's like Malcolm X said with the the liberal, right? The Sly Fox and all of that. It's the same type of thing, right? So for me, I've been able to like look at like, okay, I've been in different cities and states. I've been in red states, blue states, right? And looking at what's been going on, it's like, whoa, this isn't adding up, right? I've been taught and molded to believe a certain thing about Republicans being like being a racist group. Which I'm at a point now. I don't care if you racist anymore. Like, I don't like. At the end of the day, like it's one of them things. I don't care if you could call me a nigger. I care about if you could treat me like a nigger.
And honestly, bro, I'm at that same height because it's like this, right? It's like you're gonna be racist. That like, it almost goes back to that Game of Thrones famous line where he says, "You don't make peace with friends." Yeah. They call it peace because you're making peace with your enemies. Right. And so what I'm saying is, I don't care what you think about me. What can we come together to do to affect the community that I have in a positive way? And that's one thing that, what Fred Hampton was doing with that Rainbow Coalition. He said white power to white people, brown power to brown people, black power to black people, all power to the people. So I have no problem with white people, you know what I'm saying, who are, you know what, whatever. You want to be racist, but just know that your rights should not overstep my
Right, right,
rights. You know,
right.
your
My right
policy
to
should not
exist.
overstep my
Yeah,
policy. I should
definitely.
have governing over my people. You should have governing over your people if
That's
that's
smart.
how you want to do it. You know what I'm
That's smart.
saying? But
Smart.
but my thing is, I feel like everybody seems to have this mentality of, if you don't believe in everything that I believe in, then you're the enemy and we don't need to talk to you at all. And it's like, it can't, politics literally requires you to talk to people who disagree with you and
Disagree
get
with
them to agree with you on
you.
something.
Something on something. Disagree on so many different things. You got, it's 300 plus million people in this country, bro. Like it's so, just logically speaking, we all have different experiences, different family backgrounds, different, all these different things, right? So politically speaking, right? That's why I said we have to mature politically, because again, the emotionalism and what's been happening is that we have been, there's almost like, and what's so sad about it, what's so disheartening, even we talk about it, bro. I said, yo, like even when Biden was on the Breakfast Club saying, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. Like when I think about that, bro, I'm like, that's one of the respectful, like degrading things I've ever heard somebody say. Like, how emboldening you to even say that. And I'm like, as a black person, that, especially when I think about our ancestors, like when people say, oh, vote because your ancestors fought for that. My ancestors didn't fight for this white man to be able to just say that.
To
You know
tell
what I
me
mean?
I'm not black.
I'm not black, right? And then nobody challenges him on that. He could just say that and then still proceed to get 87% of our vote, bro. Like that's like being in an abusive relationship, and like the person ain't going nowhere. You do treat them any way you want to, you know they're gonna come back. And then you say, "Oh, don't go to that person," because they even though I may be bad for you, but they know worse. They do this to you. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? So
you
we had
talking right now.
yeah,
Hold on. Hey, you talking right now. I just want to make sure we make that you talking heavy.
Bro. It has to be
heavy.
said, and I think part of it is like, we have to be able to mature to a place where it's like, even when, because here's the thing, right? Like I said before, both parties have things that are super flawed, right? And kind of like when we think about, but one thing, the Republican Party, of course, my biggest gripe with them is more so, this myth of like a meritocracy. Pick yourself out of bootstraps, just work hard, and you'll be successful.
Never have
achieve the American dream. Nobody has worked as hard as black people. We've worked ourselves to the grave, right? In this country. Nobody even has the capacity to work as hard as we have worked and what we have done in this country, right? So that whole myth of a meritocracy is hogwash to me, right? It's trash. And so and the other piece is like the desensitizing around like the impact of like structural racism, right? Like either A, it's black people are just lazy and don't have the capacity that's like for their own thriving, they don't want to do things and be successful, or B, there's something that's impeding on the way that they can, to be able to gather resources and to thrive in these communities, right? But history tells us that's not the case. There's been an intentional assault on upward mobility in this country, right? So that's my biggest gripe when it comes to the Republican Party and all those different things, right? The Democrats, man, it's been so bad, man, and it's been so disappointing because, again, like you said, we are literally in the middle of, like, especially as black men, there's already different things in regards to how we're being looked at, right? Like the oppressors of black people, you know what I mean? The black people, the white people, the white men, the black people, all that trash. And on top of that, having to have conversations around, look, like, this isn't working in our favor anymore. We look at all these different policies. There's now even when Kamala was running in the office and going as far as being the vice president, she said, "No, I'm not going to do nothing specifically for black people." She said it like it was nothing. I'm like,
man,
but you want to use the AKAs and ski wee and bring your souls to the pole, bring your booty to the poles, and use the divine nine and black symbolism and all. I'm tired of the symbolism. I'm tired. I want substance. I'm tired of the symbolism. I'm tired of the representation. We gotta have representations, like the representation, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. So and what's happening is that they're putting black faces in high places, thinking that these people have the best interest for the masses of black people. And what these parties have been able to do, especially through classism, is separate us off of class, so that the folks that are at those high levels, they're thinking in their best interest of like what trinkets and shit they could get as far as their own resource, but not thinking about the collective, not thinking about the poor person, the poor black person in the hood. You driving your S-Class Benz or whatever, but you ain't thinking about somebody from Oak Park. You ain't thinking about somebody from over there at Sacramento, Oak Park, right? Or somebody from Richmond, because y'all so separated by class. And so it's really giving us a warped view of our politics, right? And so I think there's a lot that we need to talk about. And a lot of times we have these conversations, it gets so filled with emotion that we never finish the conversation in a healthy and productive way. You just get cut off. You get caught, solution based. And there's another piece too. This might be a little controversial. I'm gonna say here because I'm thinking about it, is that like and you know, I think part of it is that even when it comes, even let's take last election with the president, for example, right? They say, no, black women saved the Democrats and all this type of stuff, right? Well, we know, and I think statistically, 40% of the country doesn't even vote at all. They doesn't participate, 40%.
Right.
Or 60% of the populace that's actually voting, right? And you take the black vote, that's like 11% out of that 60, right? So just numerically, I think there's some things they're trying to, they're saying this to drive a wedge between black men and black women. Black women did not save the Democrat Party, right?
They just don't have the numbers.
You don't have the numbers, right? I think there's some things there. But the other thing I was going to say is that part of it, I think, with the emotionalism is that, especially right now, we have a lot of people in position, a lot of our citizens in position. Again, a lot of them are moving and kind of thinking more about moving in an emotional sense rather than rational and logically, right? So, for example, so you could just say okay, there's certain words you could say in the black community, and it's like, oh, you already turned people off. Well, that person's a racist. That person's a white supremacist. This person's this. It's like 3 or 4 terms that you could say to black people where you already shut their mind off to listen to anything you got to say. Right. And that's not a good place to be. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think we have to be able to be in a place we can have conversations with all types of people to come to a solution. And I once was that person, bro. Like, I recently, especially as a father, especially as a husband, coming to California, seeing the things that I'm seeing, like I used to have the rose-colored glasses coming on and being in California. You know, I love the beach, fire. It's 70 degrees in January. It's incredible. I don't got to wear North Face Timbs. I don't got to
got snow.
I got to throw in the butters. You know what I'm saying? But politically speaking, there's some things that I have to consider now, wearing multiple hats as a father, as a husband, as a husband. Like, when it comes to just the way in life, as far as what's been going on politically in the last 4 years, bro, it's been crazy, from inflation to wars to how COVID was handled to school policies and all these different.
Where them student loan forgiveness at, man? We giving out money to Ukraine. We giving out money to Gaza. Where is
billions of dollars?
Where is the money for the loans for the Americans? But let me address this comment real quick. My man Jason said, y'all can disagree with me on that one. He said, and you'd rather vote Republican, the party who doesn't care about minorities or the little people. See that, but I think that actually,
I'm just saying, I'm just using 2 parties. I'm not saying I'm voting Republican.
No, I agree, and that right there is exactly what I mean when I say, if you say something against one, then so you'd rather be with the racists. It's that's not what we're saying, right? Excuse me. We have to have a more intellectual conversation.
For sure.
We have to be able to say, hey, first off, there's more than 2 parties. Let's just start there.
Yeah.
There's more than 2 parties.
Yeah.
We just choose to vote for 2 parties because it's the most convenient.
Yep. The most convenient.
You know what I'm saying? Cornel West is running as an independent.
Yep. Cornell.
There's another party. So just because I'm not for this one, the fact that, or just because I'm criticizing this one, it doesn't mean that I'm almost automatically going to go with that one. The problem is that people think that that's the only thing, so they only choose it. If I tell you, hey, you have between an apple and an orange, are those the only fruit that exist, or are those the only fruit that I presented to you?
That part.
Right. So if I say that, if you said the apple is bad, then I say, well, here's the orange. Then, because you said the apple is bad, so that's all. But what about grapes? What about strawberries? What about blueberries? All these other fruit that exist, we won't even pay attention to those because we're so conditioned to say that it has to be this one or that one. Like when I remember at the time I was running for Jill Stein. I was kind of going for Jill Stein back at the previous elections back in the days, and I was going for Bernie as well too. And people were like, "Don't say that. If you're telling people to vote for Bernie, then you're telling people basically to vote for Trump." And I'm like,
that's how voting works.
You have to understand that there is not just 2 political parties. And it looks like he said this. He says, I never said that. The bottom line is there are 2 political parties, or there are 2 parties because of the conditions established it as so. This document is not set up to be a parliamentary system. Listen, what I'm saying is that just because we criticize one does not mean we praise the other. We actually criticize them both. I
Yes.
think my problem has been with a lot of people, especially again, growing up Democrat, being a Democrat, voting Democrat. What I've noticed is that there's inconsistency in regards to the criticism that Democrats have of the Democratic Party. Now, I can say the same thing about the Republican Party. There's
Part,
there's not a consistency in criticism for
that
the
part,
Republican Party by Republicans.
that part,
Agreed. You know what I'm
that,
saying? They don't know, like we don't criticize. And that's my problem is that I'm trying to criticize them both equally,
right,
fairly. Like,
right.
like I'm just saying, here's what I say. Okay. If I remember when this had happened, and I hope this doesn't get me in trouble, but I remember when this happened.
We're gonna get some good trouble, some good
When
trouble,
some good trouble.
good trouble.
Joe Biden, President Joe Biden said at the time, if you get vaccinated, you cannot catch COVID and you cannot spread COVID. So get vaccinated. That was a lie.
Mhm.
It was a straight up, flat out lie. It wasn't true. Getting vaccinated did not mean you couldn't catch COVID. It did not mean you couldn't spread
We
COVID.
all know
And he
that.
said this, I want to say this was in the summer of 2021. So
That was
we had already had plenty of different
whole year.
opportunities for you to know. Now, when I said, hey, he just lied, automatically I was seen as a racist. I was seen as anti-Biden. I was seen as a Trump supporter. And I was like, here's what my thing is. What if Trump had said that? What would the criticism be? If Trump had said, you can't catch COVID with this and this if you take this, and that wasn't the case, what would the criticism be? If Trump had his son in the White House and there was cocaine found in the White House somewhere, and his son was, you know what I'm saying, getting paid and having hookers and all these different type of things, what would the criticism be? I've heard no criticism publicly, you know what I'm saying, in that sense. It's been, hey, well, that's not really important. And the thing is, it
Let's,
is though.
let's keep it a buck, man. A lot of our people are Democratic shills, man. It's what it is, bro. They're getting
Talk
paid.
heavy.
They get paid by
Talk
the.
heavy.
They're paying them. They're using them to usher in black votes, and they keep the black vote where it is. You know what I mean? And so, and that's the real thing. And it hurts me to say this, but it has to be said. Like there's so many people that, because if you just look at what's going on, man, it doesn't make any sense to say. Here's the thing, bro. And I was looking at some statistics recently because I always got to make sure I say some, talking through some stats.
No doubt.
Yeah, on statista.com, right? Looking at just the demographical breakdown as far as by race for the presidential election. Here's the thing that really is something that we need to kind of continue to talk about is every other race can have the right to have their group of people have split votes and they can vote how they want to vote, right? And so, but for us, even if we consider even thinking about voting another party, it's like you a racist, you abandoning us, you're doing this, you're doing that, like, and we're the only race, the only group of people in this country that votes the way we vote, right? And so we have to ask deeper question: why is that the case? What's going on here? So when you think about even with the breakdown of 2020 election, white folks voted 57% for Donald Trump, 42% for Biden. Black folks, we voted 12% Donald Trump, 87% Biden. Hispanic Latino voted 32% Donald Trump, 66% Biden, right? Asian, 31% Donald Trump, right? 63% for Biden. And then for others, 40% and then 58%. You look at that, we're the only group that even has 70% or higher voting for the Democratic Party or any group or any party, period. Right. So we have to ask the question, what is that about? What is this allegiance to the Democratic Party? Like, what is it rooted in? Right. And so we have to really talk about that. Right. So even when it comes to what you said, bro, like imagine if as a group of people, a critical mass of us, that 87% right there that voted for Biden went to Cornell West or went to anybody else, or any, you know what I mean, independent candidate, whatever. That shit will shift the balance of political power in this country. Something crazy, right? We have
It would. I want to address. So there's a comment that again somebody said they said the parliamentarian system was the European model. Third parties only acquire between 2 to 5% of the popular vote. But that's the problem, right? You are if you don't vote for that third party, you're the reason why they only get 2 to 5% of the popular vote. Like I have this all the time when I work in education, and people always ask me, well, what's the black population at your school? And then I tell them, and they be like, oh, that's too low. And I say, yeah, because you're not coming. Like you have to come to increase it. If you don't come, you can't complain about the fact that the third party only has a certain percentage. You're the reason. You never choose to step outside the box. And he also said the CDC had it wrong. The organization at the time did not know the extent of how contagious the virus was by the time the vaccines were being mass distributed at the point. That's not true. Again, I respectfully, bro, what you're doing right now is you're making an excuse because you don't even know when he said that to be even said. The vaccine had already been proven that it was not going to stop you. It had already been proven. Like it was proven at the time. The CDC at the time did not say that if you get this vaccine, you can't catch the virus and you can't spread it. So, but what you just did, I need you to hear me. Don't take the emotions out. Just hear me. You just argued for a perspective that wasn't even true simply because I said something that contradicted, or that not even contradicted, that criticized a person that maybe you might be in favor for. You literally jumped to their protection, and this is kind of my concern when it comes to the black populace, is that we're so quick to say, well, the only reason he did this is because of that. That's not true. It was already known that the vaccine would not stop you from getting COVID or catching it. It would prevent the chance, it would lower the chances, but it never was meant to be used to stop you from getting it. And at the time,
boosters came out after that.
Exact boosters. This is 2021. That's what I'm saying. When he had announced this, and the reason I know this for a fact is because when I had posted it, people were commenting saying, well, he didn't know. And I'm like, if I knew, and I'm not the president of the United States, if the CDC knew,
we're real naive. We're really naive.
You have to be able to listen to understand as opposed to listening to respond. Because I feel like if you're saying, well, the CDC didn't know, yes, they did. That's not true. You just made up something to defend the fact or the person that you may have had a positive perspective on. So I just want to address that, really quickly. My bad. Go ahead though.
Yeah, no. I think that's a perfect example. Like it's just having that dialogue, respectfully, and kind of just talking through it. Because again, and I think at the end of the day, even with that conversation, in the center of it, it's even more profound for Black folks. Even with COVID and the pandemic, we were most disproportionately impacted because of our already predisposition, already kind of the things we have had as far as disease, right, and all these different things in this country. So I think at the heart of even with that, right, we're going back and forth about perspective, but it's all in the betterment of like trying to help the Black community, right? Because even with COVID, even with that, we were the ones that were mostly disproportionately impacted by COVID, right? Because of our preconditions and illness and things like that, right? So that's the thing, bro. So I think there's a lot to it. So I think again, man, I think one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is, I actually was with Dr. Cornel West about a couple weeks, like 3 or 4, like probably like a month ago. He came to Dominguez and he spoke, killed it. He went in. I mean, he just super sharp. Of course, there's just a lot of conversation around him going from the Green Party to People's Party and now being independent, all the different things that come with it. Yeah. But again, imagine if we all decided to vote for Cornel West. And I don't agree with Cornel West and everything either. Even though I rock with him, I still want to know, like, what's your stance on reparations, bro? What is that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, where are you? Because that's where I'm at right now. Like, certain things, like, and I think as Black folks, like, we have to be. And I think what happens with us is that we want to, like, I think there's we're at a place where we are ashamed or kind of feel guilty of like doing things in our own best interest and like and being exclusionary and like in our needs and wants and being okay with that, being at peace with that. Like, you know what I mean? Like I right now, I'm not trying to do a rising tide lifts all boats right now. I'm doing this for Black people unapologetically, and that's okay. But I think sometimes we get in a place where we want to be so inclusive that our interests we want to be so inclusive that our interests get so spread apart that we have nothing in common or no 4 or 5 interests that we all can agree upon that we need to better our material condition. So what are those things? Is it an anti-black hate crime bill? Is it reparations? What is it? What are these things we need all as a group to like as a populace to agree on? It could be only 3 or 4 things. There's going to be other things we don't agree on, but we get 3 or 4 core things. And right now, we're not even at a place as a community where we have those things because there's so many different shared split interests on going this way, going to the LGBTQ, going to Asian this stuff, or the migrant thing right now. That's a big thing too. I haven't get into the whole migrant thing that's going on. And of course, it gets real dicey. But again, being somebody from New York City, my brother's in Florida, I'm in California, right? I get to literally get a three different perspectives on what's going on across the country from 3 different states. So we always talk about, me and my siblings always talk about politics. Yo, what's going on in Florida, bro? What's going on in Miami? Oh, they said don't go to Florida because Florida's so dangerous for black people. How's it for you, bro? Bro, ain't nothing going on in Florida. We good out here, bro. We're just on the beach chilling. Hey, but they make it out here. They made Florida sound like it was like if you go there as a black person, you're gonna be murdered out there, right? They try to scare you to try to fearmonger you. There's a lot of fear mongering going on, right? And so, but I want to get to the migrant thing because even with that, it's part of that conversation right now. We see it particularly in the sanctuary cities right now, New York specifically, right? What's happening is that the migrants are coming in, and coming here for refuge, and I get it, but it's all about coming here the right way, right? But right now, what's going on? Folks are coming here, and they're taking up most of the resource that could be going to black folks, right? The low wage jobs. They getting pit in hotels, Chicago. They had a whole big rally in Chicago. One of the community centers over there was going to be taken, and the mayor, Brandon, I think it's Brandon Johnson, I think the mayor's name over there, black dude, Democrat, was going to take ownership of and move the resource, the community center to house migrants. And the black community was in an uproar, bro, because again, you displacing black folks for other people. And it's like, yo, what's going on? And so we have to have conversations and be like, yo, this is in our best interest, even if it means that we have to, on this particular issue, we don't agree with the sanctuary city stuff because it's gonna take away from the opportunity for black people to be able to get jobs, right? And what's happening is even with the wages, like you get a low paying job, you give a migrant a job, give them less than minimum wage because where they're coming from, that's a big upgrade. It was getting $1 a day or whatever with some countries, $2 a day. They come here and get $7, $10, $12 an hour. That's a major come up. But for folks like black folks who've been here, we're gonna push back like, yo, that's not the right amount of pay for what we're giving us for this kind of manual labor or this kind of work. And so there's a lot going on in regards to even with the whole migrant thing in the sanctuary cities when it comes to just policies, right? And again, the Democrat Party is pushing this shit, right? And it's like, okay, so for me, I'm like, yo, y'all not, again, y'all just do. We saying go right. Y'all keep going left. Like, what's going on with y'all? Every time we say we want this, y'all keep going the opposite direction. Y'all clearly don't take us as a voting group seriously.
I feel like we get treated like a kid in the backseat of a car, and they're saying, oh, I want to go to that store, and you're like, yeah, all right. And you just keep driving. They're like, oh, I want to go to that. What's that, mommy? What's that, daddy? What's that, uncle? And it's like, yeah, all right. Yeah, we're going to go there one day. Keep on driving. And it's like, it shouldn't be,
You get 87% of the vote for decades at a time. After a certain amount of time, you already know it's in the bag. You ain't got to do nothing. Like, you good. They're not competing for, they're not in the space. We haven't made them compete for our vote at all.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge this comment. It says third parties are the reason why certain elections, like back in 2000, lean towards the wrong presidential candidate. Not to mention a Supreme Court that swings. I just disagree. I think the reason why we get the wrong presidential candidate is because the presidential candidate that we were presented with didn't provide us or present us with something that we felt was voting for. That's what I feel like. I think that if you present a candidate that is worthy of my vote, I'm going to vote for them.
Yeah.
I hate that we put the reason of an election that didn't go our way on the voters, as opposed to who we're supposed to be voting for. I think that's a huge pet peeve of mine. They were like, in 2012 when 2016, I mean, when Trump got elected, right? They were like, you guys You people who said don't vote or who did, y'all the reason why Trump got elected. And in my head, I was just like, no, they weren't. They weren't. The reason Trump got elected is because the Democrats didn't provide a candidate that we felt was worthy of getting the majority of the votes. We have to stop. Like,
and let's talk about it, bro. Before you even get off that, bro.
for sure.
Here's the irony in that, right? Even with that whole, Hillary Clinton and Trump piece, the majority of white women voted for Donald Trump. After he said, "Grab him by the you know what, bro."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was
still
presidential like.
They still, you know what I mean? They still voted majority for him. So I think overall, again, it's not the voters. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it got to be the candidate, right? It got to be there's something that the candidate has that's presenting to the voters that's behooving them to give them that vote, right? It could be different things for interests. It could be economic interests, business interests. It could be whatever that may be, right? You know what I mean? So, and I just look at it again. I just think again, like these last 4 years have been straight trash. I mean, we're in so much disarray as a country. We are at odds with each other, right? There's so much going on as far as the country being in just shambles as far as like inflation. You know what I mean? The housing market, war, COVID, all these different things that's happening. So there's so much in regards to the Black experience that we need to reassess. Like, what does this mean for our future? Right? There's already stats that says the next like by 2050, black wealth is going to be at 0, bro. So if that's the forecast for like 30, 25 years away, 27 years away, what are we
doing now?
What can we do now to change that shit, right? So that may mean we have to do something we never thought we would have to do before. And I get it. It's a lot of emotional shit to it, man, because grandma, Nana and them voted for Democrats. You know what I mean? Your folks, they voted for them. You know what I mean? And I get it. You love your Nana. You love mom and dad. I love my dad. But if my dad was alive today, I know, and I had a debate with my sisters about this. See, I'm like, yo, Dad would not be. We rocking with the Democrats right now because they're going too left. They're going like, nah, y'all doing way too much. Y'all going way farther than we want y'all to go as far as what it means like politically. So we have to reimagine what that looks like, man. And what are we afraid of? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? What are we afraid of to just do something different? Like, it won't hurt us. We got 60 years of evidence that's showing us that, okay, like things aren't changing. Like, we still at the bottom.
We got 60 years of proof of what's going to happen if we stay voting this way.
Yeah, what's 3 or 4 years of a different type of voting, pattern? What could that do, right? Now, here's the other thing too that really grounded my gears, particularly when it came to like Ice Cube. Say somebody who had a contract with Black America, want even just said something different, make y'all compete for the votes. What we want. This man got. Talking about this man was getting all types of just hate and just, I'm like, what's going on here? Even here's the thing, even with that situation, he proposed it to both parties, right? President Joe Biden, well, he wasn't president yet. Joe Biden and Kamala said, we'll talk to you after the election.
Yeah, they didn't even give him no mind.
We're gonna talk to you right now, like, you know what I mean? Like, so again, like I don't know, man. I just take it as like blatant. It's like disrespect, and at this point, I'm kind of like, yo, I got way too much like dignity as a Black person to continue to let y'all do this to us. You know what I mean? Like, and not say anything about this anymore. It's getting crazy.
Yeah, I saw when Ice Cube was on he was on the Roland Martin show.
Oh my God!
And he was criticized for his contract with Black America. He was like, all y'all doing is criticize. He said, none of y'all won't help me.
Right.
That's it. Like, you're just talking. None of you. He was open to. I'm talking about. He was opening up to anybody. He was like, anybody out there, if you want to help, then help me. Help me fill out this contract with Black America. Help me expand it to make it useful. It's for all of us. And all they did was, well, you ain't got nothing in here about women, and you ain't got. And where's this and where's that? And he's like, well, come help. I don't have. And this is what I always say. I don't have what you didn't put. So if you didn't put it in here, no, I don't have it. You want it in here, come put it in there. But otherwise, all you're doing is just talking because you have a platform and you criticize it. But you didn't really actually put in the work to change it. And my thing is, again, when you have, like, Ice Cube was like, I don't need this contract. I'm fine. I'm doing this for my people.
He think about the collective.
Jay-Z said, I don't need the NFL. The NFL needs me. I'm doing this for y'all because y'all want to play football. Y'all mad at me for doing a deal with the NFL when literally you could criticize a different black NFL player every single day for the entire year and you still would have too many black players to keep criticizing, right? You would run out of days before you ran out of players. And you're getting mad at the one person for doing a deal, right, to help the NFL. Like, we have to stop coming at our people for trying to make change instead of saying or instead of criticizing them. Let's just take our own. Then if you're not willing to take your own, take your money, take your resources and move over, is everything you buy from a black person? No. Okay, be quiet.
Right.
Be quiet and let the person who's in there fight and fight. I was watching Dr. Gloria Lancet Billings. She was doing a presentation and she said only like 12% of people were fighting during the civil rights movement. Only like 12% of people. Like, I don't know where that sticker came from, but that's cool. But yeah, she said like only like 12% of black people were participating in the civil rights movement. So all these people that be talking about we need to get out there and we need to do this. This wouldn't have happened in the 70s. We would have. No, y'all didn't. Most of y'all was in y'all house criticizing Martin Luther King, criticizing Malcolm X, criticizing the Black Panther Party, criticizing Honorable Elijah Muhammad, criticizing Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Y'all were criticizing these people. Y'all weren't even taking the sacrifices that they were doing. And I don't agree with each one of those individuals 100% on everything, but what I do is I respect the fact that they were willing to stand on something and they went to fight and many of them lost their lives for what they were doing, as opposed to you leaving comments on, you know what I'm saying, on people's stuff about what they doing wrong. Where's your actions? You know what I'm saying? Where's your action?
What's your action?
Yeah,
we all got the power to contribute to that, and I think that's where, again, like when it comes to like some solutions, even the local politics, everybody can go to a school board meeting. You can know who your local assemblyman is or assemblywoman is, council, city council, right? These are certain things that we all have the power to do in our respective like locales and municipalities. Like we all can do that. And so I think, how do you like think more inward as like, okay, what's my role in this? What's my role in our collective fight for freedom and liberation, right? And so what does that look like, and being unapologetic about it? And I think, again, we have to be well studied when it comes to, because this system is evolved. It's a well-oiled machine, right? These, as far as the things that are happening, and when it comes to our collective, fight, you know what I mean, to be able to just to on the pursuit of like happiness and thriving and fulfillment in this country, like these, so much that we could take from history. You just when you understand how things worked and what it was historically speaking, you could kind of, as things are happening in real time, you can see the patterns. You easily identify, okay, this is a ploy they did 40 years ago. It just looks a little bit different now, right? So we think about all the different things, right? And so I think when it comes to those, we all have a role in this. And I think that in the day, we have to take the emotion out of this and really think more critically and more rationally and logically about like, how do we come together as a group? And again, and here's the hard part too. And I've had to wrestle with this. Some folks may have to get left behind, and that's going to be a tough one. You know what I mean? And I think that at first, my spirit is like, nah, everybody, you all in here together. You know what I mean? But it's like some folks ain't gonna want it. You know what I mean? Or not going to want to understand, or not want to be able to take that jump or take that risk or be bold enough to say the things that need to be said. And so we may have to leave a couple of brothers and sisters behind with this, right? And so I was talking to some students recently about, we came from a conference in San Diego. We were talking about like, what would it look like? And what's happening is too, right? When it comes to even with our youth, because there's the disconnect with like some of the history too, is that like even the talks like black folks talking about separation is seen as like as black folks doing reverse racism, right? So how do you try to help them understand like that reverse racism? First of all, that doesn't even exist as far as when it comes to black folks, right? You could be discriminatory, you can have maybe prejudice, but racism is a power structure, is a power dynamic that black folks haven't been afforded, aren't in those positions to unilaterally impact the lives and livelihood and upward mobility of groups of people based off their race or something they don't like or bias that they have, right? We don't have that. But we talked about separation and what that could look like, right? And thinking about what was some of the things historically that has us at a place right now, we over here shaking our fucking heads like, what happened for the last 60 years? Like, we in a fog, we in a daze right now, right? Integration was, we could talk, okay, what did that do for that? Going into integration, how did that dissolve? How did that dissolve our collective power, unity, marriage, trust, all the foundational things that we need to now be like, okay, I see you, brother. I'm gonna listen to you. We could agree on some things and like move forward. But because we're void of the things that we have foundationally and our core and our values, because we freaking dissolved all of that with integration, it's a lot with it, man. You already know there's a lot with that dynamic. I know that's a dicey thing to talk about because people have thoughts about it, but the separation piece,
It's
that's
necessary, bro.
that we have to talk about. What does that? And every group has variations of separation in with them, right? As far as having their own businesses and infrastructures and things like that, right? So we have to talk about that. And what does that look like for us to think about that 2050, about that 0% ratio, that wealth for Black folks? Like, how do we? These are the questions and things we have to grapple with, right? What does it look like for us? So
Nah, that's real. I think that's one of the things, like you said, I wrestle with as well too, because we have to be able to separate ourselves, and it's fine. Like I think I'm learning that because the older I get, the more people that especially working in education, there's a lot of silent Republicans, you know what I'm saying, that are
yeah,
Republicans.
oh,
You
hell
can, but they just not forefront about it. And it's like, that's okay. Like, I've been trying to find common ground. Like, what are things that we have in common, right? And it's okay. Maybe you might vote this way on this, but you might feel this way on that. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay,
Why
I'm
do
willing to,
come on?
you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm willing to lean a little bit, and so yeah, I think that for we have to be able to separate, because everybody can't ride, what I'm saying, everybody can. But it's crazy because life has kind of been training us to do this, right? Like, as you get old, like when you going away to college, you have to separate, right? Like, you working in education, you got to separate. Like, what I'm saying, you working on Black men, got to separate. Getting your master's, you got to separate. Like, there's certain just things in general. You being a father, got to separate. You being a husband, got to separate. Like, there's just certain things that you can't do that other people might be willing to do, but that doesn't mean that that person isn't necessarily important. It doesn't mean that that person doesn't have something to bring to the table and something to offer the conversation. It just means that we might not be able to go your direction permanently. We might have to leave you over there for right now, and we're gonna go do what we got to do.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
later on, if you still feel like you rocking with us, you can come on. But
Right.
for right now, we gonna pick up this car and we gonna take it over here, because down that way right there, that's where they serving food at. We
Right,
trying to
right.
go get some food. We trying to eat, because there's
That's
plenty of food out there on this table, but we
plenty
just not getting none over here.
of food, plenty of food, and part of it too, right? We got to part of getting the food got to stand on our own table. We got to make our own table. You feel me?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Of other folks' tables and all that type of thing, and what comes with that, right? The ingredients is different, the recipe is different. You ain't in control of, what the food, the contents of the food. You know what I'm saying? It might be unhealthy food. You know what I mean? Like, we could go down that. You know what I mean? We could go down that for a minute, bro. But that's the thing with the separation, being able to build our own, and that doesn't mean like we don't have moments of interaction with other groups of people. That doesn't mean that we can still do business, still, all those type of things. But as far as us having those infrastructures, man, that's what it's going. We're going to have to need that as far as when it comes to Black thriving. And the other piece of that, we're going to have to be willing to know. We have to be willing to protect it, because history tells us every time we've created our own, it was always met with force, met with resistance,
Violence.
with
Yeah.
violence. You know what I mean? And so we have to be in position to protect what we create this in a particular way. I'm not going to say all of it on this platform, but you know what I mean.
100%.
You might be some folks listening.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Listen, man. So we've been chopping it up for about an hour now. I definitely feel like this is part one of this conversation, because as we know, like I said, all the politicians, the political warriors. Oh, my man Joyce said, just like Nelson Mandela. Exactly. But I know all these, the keyboard politicians are going to come next year. Well, so I'm just gonna say this for now. This is part one, because I have a feeling there's going to be a part two in the future. But obviously, you understand. You've been on the show before. We've been doing Wise Word Wednesdays every week since 2016. And so we have just finished and started. We finished our 6th year. Now we're starting year 7, doing Wise Word Wednesdays every week. The goal is to be able to provide people with some insight, some information, some helpful tools to help them throughout their week or help them throughout their life. So for this week, I wanted to ask you if there was a wise word that you could leave the audience with about anything in life. It could be about the conversation we already talked about, or it could be about something different. What would that wise word be?
Man, thank you for that, bro. I would say, and the memory of great ancestor John Henry Clark, I will say to our good people is that If you are against all evil, you never choose the lesser between two evils.
Ooh, talk
If you are
heavy.
all evil, you never choose the lesser between two evils. And I wanted to say this as it pertains to politically speaking, right? A lot of times we have this dialogue and oh, it's lesser of two evils. We got to vote. You know, this person's this, or this party's this, or this group's that, right? As Black folks, we have to think more critically about what that means, and we have to be against all evil, right? Like, and that means that if we're against that all evil, that means that we're not going to engage with that and vote for that because it's lesser or it's not as bad as another place or another person or another party. So again, if you are against all evil, you never choose the lesser between two evils. That's what I want to leave y'all with. And I want y'all to think about that politically because we have been socialized to think that, okay, like, well, you know, the Republicans are this, or this group is this, or the Democrats are this, right? Like we have to think more expansively around like our political strategy as a group, right? And having the collective in mind in that and making sure we're centering our collective uplift, right? It's different if you're an individual. They want us to think individualistically, and that's not in the nature of African people. We're not an individualistic people. We are a collective, Ubuntu. I am because we are I am. So we have to get back to that mindset. And so with that, that connects to the evil piece because we have to be against all of it, right? And so I want to leave y'all with that, family.
Brother, I genuinely appreciate you being on here, and I appreciate that wise word. Honestly, yeah, I we talk, like I said, we actually genuinely connect on a lot of different things, and so I'm just excited the fact that I have a good network of people that can keep it real with me, that can, because things like that are what keep me in check, right? Because there's certain things that I know that I can do or cannot do, and if I do, I know I can run it by people like yourself just to be able to make sure that I'm in line, right? Like make sure I'm not out of bounds, out of pocket. And so I just appreciate that. And I don't know if people got got a chance to see it, but I want to show your shirt because I think it has a very important statement on there. Make America pay reparations. Repeat. Make America pay reparations.
Man, you're on that type of time. And it has to be. You know what I mean? I think that there's, of course, this. People are saying it's a divisive conversation, divisive topic, but it's not. There's a debt that needs to be paid, a debt that's owed, to Black people. We need to go and claim that. You know what I mean? And with the voice of MLK, say we gotta go get that check, right? And so folks love MLK so much. So let's go in and fulfill that, right? And that's a part of. We talk about getting to the promised land, all that type of stuff. Part of it is this country paying for that redress for the number one the crime against humanity and atrocity to Black people, man. So that's something that when I think of politically, if a candidate ain't talking about reparations and I don't got nothing in place for that, you're not getting my vote.
You ain't getting my vote, man. Y'all giving reparations to Ukraine, y'all giving reparations to Gaza, y'all giving reparations, y'all gave reparations to the Japanese, to the Jewish, y'all gave reparations to the Native Americans, giving reparations to Asia. Where's my reparations? Where first off, forgive these loans and give me my money. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I just again, I genuinely just appreciate you, bro, being on here and willing to talk. And like I said, this is part one because I have a feeling. I know there's y'all may not see this, but I sent Hakeem a whole list of questions to ask, and we only went through one. We literally only got to one question. So we're definitely, this is part one because we're gonna run it back another time where I can be able to ask him the full set of questions because I think it's important and his perspective is critical. And I hope that this just again sparks the conversation, allows you, allows you to think a little bit more for all those people that are out there. So I just want to say thank you again for being on here. Thank you for everybody that decided to join on Instagram Live. Ask questions. I don't know. One of these days I'm gonna figure out how to get y'all from Instagram Live to this so that way I can have y'all kind of join in every now and then. We can have a full conversation, or maybe just one day I'm gonna just post a link and say, hey, if you want to talk, do that. Because I do love these things. I think they're super helpful, being able to give people opportunity to ask questions, answer questions, things like that, and just get the dialogue going, because the more we can talk and understand each other and see where each other's perspective is coming from, the more we can move as a unit, for those that want to move together as a unit. So
and again, we're doing it out of love, and we're doing it out of just respect and love for our community and wanting to see us thrive. And I think that's always keeping that good faith, right? We're not having these conversations in bad faith. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's something that's And there's something in the water right now. I was telling Josiah this before we got on live, is that like, there's a collective, like, there's like an awakening that's happening right now. There's more people who feel like how we're feeling right now and wrestling with like what we've been seeing, feeling, and experiencing. And like, yo, something's going on, and we have to change it and make a change and do something different and think a little bit differently about, you know, what it means as far as our material conditions as Black people. So I feel like right now a lot of people are kind of in the margins trying to figure out where they want to go. But I feel like there's a lot of us, there's more of us that are really like, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. Like, you know what I mean? I'm gonna do something else. I ain't doing this again. I'm gonna figure what else, but I'm gonna do. But I'm definitely ain't doing that no more. You know what I mean?
Doing that.
So I'm happy that we was able to have this conversation, bro. Continuing to plant seeds, just to think more expansively, think more critically about what things look like, you know, for our communities and for our families. Again, and as the leaders of, you know, as Black men, you know, we are leaders, man, and so we have to really take ownership of that and really think more, you know, critically about what that looks like for us, and really try to, you know, carve a path for our community in a particular way, man. So I appreciate you having me on as always, bro.
No doubt. It's love, man. FYB presents Wise Word Wednesdays. As usual, I'm going to leave y'all with a We Fresh, and I love you.